Rafi was a soldier who had seen many battles among the stars. His ship was caught in the middle of a clash between human forces and the Syrian Empire. Fire burned across the sky as ships traded weapons, and in the middle of this chaos, Rafi's small craft was hit. The metal walls shook, alarms screamed, and then his ship fell from the orbit of the planet below. He had no choice but to crash land. When the ship tore into the soil, smoke rose and the soldier dragged himself out. His armor was cracked and his breath was heavy. He looked at the strange land. The skies were purple, and tall crystal trees grew from the earth. Rafi knew this was Syrian territory, and that meant he was in danger. Humans and Syrians had been enemies for years. Not far from his crash site, the Syrian royal convoy moved across the plain. At the center of it was Princess Nira, daughter of Queen Arila. The convoy was guarded by soldiers in tall, shining armor. Their task was simple: to protect the princess as she traveled to a nearby fortress. But fate had a different plan. The human weapon that had struck earlier had not vanished. It left behind shards of energy, small fragments of fire that still burned. One of these explosions hit close to the convoy. The Syrian guards tried to shield the princess, but she was struck by a beam that cut across her side. She fell to the ground, her breath shallow. The guards cried out, rushing to her, but their healing devices failed. Syrian medicine could close wounds and fix broken bones. Yet this strange burn from human weaponry spread inside her like a poison. Rafi, hidden in the crystal trees, saw the scene unfold. His heart pounded. He could have stayed away. He could have let the enemy suffer. But when he saw the princess weak and fading, something in him moved. He stepped out with his hands raised, though every Syrian guard turned their weapons toward him at once. "Wait," he said. His voice was rough, his body shaking, but his eyes steady. "I can help her." The guards shouted in their own language, demanding he surrender. But the princess groaned in pain, her breath thin. Rafi stepped forward slowly. "Her wound is made by human fire. Your tools cannot heal it. My blood can." The guards hesitated, unsure if this was a trick. Rafi took off his glove and drew a small blade across his palm. Red blood ran down his hand. He knelt beside the princess and let the drops fall onto the wound. The Syrians gasped, for the poison in her skin began to fade. The light of pain dimmed and color returned to her face. The princess opened her eyes weakly and looked at him.
"Why?" she whispered, her voice thin. "Why would you help me?"
Rafi gave her a small smile, though his own strength was slipping. "Because you are alive, and that is reason enough." The guards pulled him back, their weapons pressed to his chest. Some wanted to kill him at once, believing no human should touch the princess. But they stopped when they saw her sit up with new strength. She touched her side in wonder. The wound was not fully gone, but the pain had eased, and her life was no longer fading. The Syrian soldiers carried her quickly to the royal transport. The princess whispered to her guards, pointing toward Rafi. They obeyed, and instead of killing him, they bound his arms with glowing chains. The convoy rushed back to the palace of Queen Arila. It was a towering fortress of silver and crystal, its towers rising high into the purple sky. Word spread quickly through the palace halls. The human had saved the princess with his own blood. Queen Arila sat upon her throne when the guards entered. She was tall and commanding, her eyes sharp like blades. The princess walked beside her, still weak but alive. Rafi stood in chains before the queen. The queen's voice was cold but steady. "You are human. You are our enemy, yet you gave your blood to heal my daughter. Why?" Rafi lifted his head. His body ached, his wound still open, but his spirit was strong. "Because I could. Because she did not deserve to die for a war she did not choose." The court whispered among themselves. Some called it a trick. Others called it a miracle. The queen raised her hand for silence. She looked at her daughter, who gave a small nod. Then she turned back to Rafi. "Your blood is powerful," the queen said. "It saved her life where all our knowledge failed. Such a gift cannot be allowed to leave our grasp. From this day, you are my prisoner. You will remain here, where your blood belongs to me and my people." The guards dragged Rafi away, his hands still bound. The princess watched with worried eyes, her lips pressed tight. She owed him her life, yet she could not stop her mother's command. As the heavy doors closed behind him, Rafi understood his fate. He had saved a life with his own blood, and now that gift had become his prison. But deep in his heart he felt no regret. For in that moment he had proven that even in the heart of the enemy, humanity's courage and compassion could shine. Rafi had been taken to the palace immediately after saving Princess Nira. The halls of the Syrian palace were grand, filled with high ceilings of crystal and walls that shimmered in soft light. Guards with glowing weapons surrounded him on all sides. His hands were bound in chains that pulsed with energy, preventing him from using any of his strength. Though his body ached, Rafi's mind stayed sharp. He needed to understand the palace and its people if he hoped to survive. The princess had recovered enough to walk, though she was still weak. She moved through the halls beside her mother, Queen Arila. Rafi could hear her soft whispers, sometimes in warning, sometimes in curiosity. She wanted to know him, to understand why a human could act with such selflessness. The queen, however, kept her distance, her eyes always observing, judging. Rafi was brought to a small chamber in the palace. It was bare except for a cot and a table. The walls were smooth and small lights glowed in soft patterns. He sat on the cot examining the chains. They were strong, designed to hold the most dangerous of enemies, yet Rafi could feel that they relied on suppressing fear as much as strength. During the first night, he could hear the palace alive around him. Servants whispered about the human who had saved the princess. Some spoke with admiration, while others feared what his blood could do. He realized quickly that the Syrians had never seen a human up close. They did not understand compassion in battle, only rules, orders, and obedience. His actions would confuse them. The next morning, Princess Nira arrived. She was alone this time, and her steps were careful, but her eyes held a quiet determination. Rafi looked at her, nodding slightly. "You do not need to fear me," he said. His voice was low but steady. She tilted her head, curiosity shining in her eyes. "Why did you help me? You are our enemy. You could have let me die." Rafi met her gaze. "Because life is life. You did not choose this war. You did not ask for danger. I could not let it take you." She studied him silently. "Humans are strange," she said finally. "They fight and yet they care for others. You could have stayed away, but you did not." Rafi shrugged. "I do what I can." For days, the queen did not speak to him directly. She allowed him food and water, but nothing more. He was watched constantly. Servants who brought him meals often whispered about his bravery. Some admired him and some feared the power of his blood. Rafi noticed that even in chains he held influence simply because he had chosen to act with courage. Princess Nira visited him each day. She would sit nearby, sometimes reading, sometimes speaking. They shared stories of their worlds, of humans and Syrians, of battles fought and peace dreamed of. Rafi listened carefully, learning about the customs, the rules, and the fears of the Syrians. He also told her about humans, how they fought, and how they hoped for peace even in war. One afternoon, a group of Syrian nobles arrived. They had heard rumors about the human prisoner. They demanded that the queen allow them to study him, to see what made his blood so strong. Some even suggested extracting it to create a weapon. Rafi's heart sank. He realized that saving the princess had made him more valuable, but in ways that could bring danger to him. The queen stood tall before the nobles. "His blood saved my daughter. That is reason enough to keep him under my protection," she said. "No one may harm him, nor remove his blood without my command." The nobles bowed, but their eyes were sharp. They left quietly, but Rafi knew their curiosity would not fade. He could feel the tension in the palace walls, a mixture of awe, fear, and envy. As the days passed, Rafi also noticed that the queen studied him silently, her sharp eyes following his every movement. Sometimes he caught her observing him from afar, as if measuring not just his strength but his spirit. Rafi understood then that humans were different. They were feared not only because of weapons or skill, but because of courage, loyalty, and heart. One evening, as the sun painted the crystal towers in gold and purple, Princess Nira visited him quietly. "Do you fear them?" she asked softly. Rafi shook his head. "No, I am not afraid of those who fear what they do not understand. I only worry for those who cannot see beyond it." She looked at him, admiration and worry mixed in her gaze. "You have done so much for me. I wish I could do something for you." "You already have," he replied. "You are alive. That is enough." But even as they spoke, danger quietly circled the palace. Some Syrians did not like the idea of a human holding such power, even without weapons. Whispers of rebellion began in the halls, and Rafi knew that his time as a simple prisoner might not last. The palace itself was alive with plans, secrets, and shifting loyalties. Rafi understood one truth clearly. Surviving here would require more than strength. It would require patience, courage, and the ability to inspire those around him. His chains might hold him physically, but they could not bind his mind or his spirit. And somewhere deep in the palace, the queen considered her next move. She had captured a human who had risked his life for her daughter. He was valuable beyond measure, and yet she did not know if he was friend or foe. Every decision would shape not just her daughter's life, but the future of her empire. Rafi lay on the cot that night, chains cold against his skin, but his heart steady. He had saved a life with his blood, and now he would survive with his courage. The palace could hold him, but it could not break him. The story of the human in chains had only just begun. Rafi had been in the palace for several weeks. Every day brought new challenges. The Syrian nobles whispered about him in the corridors, some admiring his courage, others plotting to use him for their gain. He understood that his survival would depend not only on his strength, but also on his ability to remain calm and observant. Princess Nira visited him often. She walked softly through the glowing halls, her presence a quiet comfort. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they simply watched the sunlight reflect through the crystal towers together. She asked about his home, his people, and the battles he had fought. Rafi shared small stories of human life, of hope, of courage, and of the strange inventions they created for exploration and protection. One morning, the palace was unusually quiet. Rafi noticed tension in the guards' movements. Then he heard the whispers. A group of nobles had begun to challenge the queen's decision to keep him alive. They believed humans were dangerous and feared that his blood could be weaponized. Their eyes were sharp with envy, and their words carried threats hidden beneath politeness. Rafi remained in his chamber listening. He realized that he was no longer just a prisoner. He had become the center of palace intrigue. The nobles plotted to test him, to see if his courage could be broken. They sought to use him to control the queen or to force her hand in political matters. That evening, Princess Nira arrived, her steps quick and anxious. "Rafi," she said quietly, "there are people who want to harm you. They speak of taking your blood for power. They do not understand you." Rafi looked at her calmly. "I know, I am not afraid. Humans are not easily broken, especially when their cause is just." She shook her head. "It is not just about fear. They do not understand why you helped me. They cannot see why a human would care for an enemy." Rafi smiled faintly. "Sometimes people only act because it is right. That is enough." The days passed with subtle tension. Rafi observed the palace carefully. He noticed secret meetings held in shadowed rooms. Guards would deliver messages in whispers. Even some servants were not what they seemed. The palace was alive with hidden plans, and Rafi understood that survival meant more than physical strength. It meant patience, attention, and trust earned carefully. One afternoon, a sudden commotion echoed through the halls. A group of nobles confronted the queen in the throne room. Their voices were sharp, demanding that she allow them access to Rafi. They spoke of curiosity, power, and the potential for weapons. The queen's eyes were steady, but Rafi could feel her tension. "His blood is not a weapon," she said. "It saved my daughter's life. It belongs only to her now, and to no one else." Some nobles bowed, their faces tight with controlled anger. They left quietly, but the message was clear. Rafi had made enemies within the palace. He understood that their patience would last only as long as the queen protected him. Princess Nira visited him that night. She held a small tray of food and sat quietly, as was their routine. "You have made many enemies," she said softly. "Why do you remain calm?" Rafi looked at her with steady eyes. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting rightly despite it. I cannot control others, only myself." She nodded slowly. "I wish more people understood that." In the days that followed, the tension grew. Guards were stricter, nobles more watchful. Rafi continued to observe and learn. He realized that the queen herself was a careful strategist. She watched everyone, even her own council, judging their intentions and planning her next move. Her daughter's life was her greatest concern, yet she also understood the importance of Rafi's presence and the danger it represented. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the crystal towers, Rafi was allowed to walk in a small courtyard, still bound but free to move. Princess Nira joined him. She looked at the horizon. Do you think my mother will ever trust you completely? Rafi considered her question. Trust is built over time. She already values my presence even if she fears it. That is the start. A sudden sound echoed through the courtyard. Shadowed figures moved along the palace walls. Rafi instinctively shifted, sensing danger. The princess looked at him, worry in her eyes. What is it? Trouble, Rafi said. You must be careful. Not everyone in this palace wishes us well. The figures retreated before they could be seen clearly. Rafi understood the warning. The palace was full of eyes and secrets. Every step he took would need thought, every word measured. He had survived the battlefield, but now he faced a different kind of war. One of patience, caution, and careful observation. As the night deepened, Rafi and Princess Nira walked silently. He knew that in time the queen would test him further. Perhaps she would call on him for advice or for aid in matters of strategy. And when that time came, he would need to prove that humanity's strength lay not just in courage or blood, but in wisdom, loyalty, and the willingness to act for the right reason. Rafi returned to his chamber, chains cold against his skin, yet his spirit steady. The palace held him physically, but it could not break his mind. He had faced battles among the stars, and now he would face battles of trust, loyalty, and courage within these glowing walls. He lay down, eyes fixed on the ceiling. The weeks ahead would not be easy, but Rafi knew one truth clearly. He would endure. And through endurance he would show why humans were more than their weapons. They were their courage, their heart, and their unyielding will. The palace whispered with secrets that night, but Rafi's heart remained strong. The story of the human in chains was far from over, and the test of his courage had only just begun. The morning light shimmered through the crystal towers of the Syrian palace, and Rafi felt a quiet tension in the air. For weeks he had observed the palace, its guards, and its people. He understood that his chains held him physically, but the true test of survival would come from what he could do with his mind and courage. That day, Queen Arila called for a private meeting. Rafi was brought into a high chamber with walls of shining silver and a view of the city below. The queen stood near a tall window, her expression calm but watchful. Princess Nira was with her, though she hung back, hesitant. Rafi, the queen said, her voice firm, you have remained here for some time. You have shown courage and wisdom. Yet the danger surrounding this palace grows. I must ask you to act. Rafi looked at her, sensing the gravity of the moment. What do you need me to do? A siren echoed through the palace. Guards rushed past the doors, weapons drawn. The northern gates are under attack, one shouted. An enemy force is approaching, seeking the city and the secret of your human prisoner. The queen's eyes narrowed. You must help defend the palace. Only your strategy and courage can save us now. Rafi's heart quickened, not with fear, but with resolve. Though he had been a captive, he had trained for battles far beyond what most could imagine. He quickly assessed the palace defenses, observing the walls, the gates, and the positions of the Syrian soldiers. He turned to the queen. I need a small group of trusted guards and the princess. I can lead them to protect the city, and we can turn this attack into a victory. The queen hesitated, then nodded. You may take 50 soldiers. Choose carefully. Rafi gathered the guards, giving simple instructions. He knew that humans and Syrians had different tactics. He would need to combine Syrian strength with human unpredictability. Stay close, watch each other's backs, and do not fear the enemy, he said. We are not only defending walls, we are defending hope. The battle began at dawn. Enemy ships and ground troops advanced with speed. Rafi moved among the guards, his presence steady and inspiring. He directed soldiers to key positions, anticipating attacks and setting traps. Syrian soldiers followed his lead, surprised by the humans' understanding of strategy and quick thinking. Princess Nira stayed nearby, carrying supplies and tending to the wounded. She watched Rafi with admiration. He is not like anyone I have known, she whispered to a guard. Even in chains he thinks beyond fear. He inspires us all. The enemy was relentless, pressing forward with powerful weapons. Rafi used human ingenuity, setting ambushes and guiding the Syrian soldiers to positions where their strength could dominate. Each movement was precise yet simple. He relied on courage, observation, and timing, qualities that humans excelled in even without advanced technology. At one point, the enemy broke through a wall section. Rafi led a counterattack, moving swiftly among the soldiers. He fought alongside them, using his experience to hold the line. The Syrians were amazed at his skill, not just in battle, but in keeping everyone focused and calm. Hours passed. Sweat and exhaustion filled the air. The city shook with explosions and cries of warriors. Rafi noticed the enemy forming a larger group, planning to strike the palace directly. He realized that a decisive move was necessary. "Take the rooftops," he commanded. "We can flank them and cut off their advance. Trust your training and your courage." The Syrian soldiers hesitated for a moment, unsure of his plan. Then, seeing his resolve, they followed. The flanking attack worked. The enemy was caught off guard, their formations broken. Rafi led a final push and the invading force retreated, leaving the city standing. Princess Nira ran to him, her eyes wide with relief. "You saved us all," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I have never seen such courage." Rafi shook his head. "We saved ourselves. I only showed the way. You and your soldiers fought bravely. That is what made victory possible." The queen appeared, her face unreadable at first. She looked over the battlefield, the city still standing because of his guidance. Then slowly she approached Rafi. "You have proven yourself, human. Not only through your blood, but through your courage, your mind, and your leadership. You have saved my city, my people, and my daughter." Rafi bowed his head, still chained, his body exhausted but his spirit strong. "I do what I must. That is all anyone can do." Queen Arilla studied him for a long moment. She then turned to the princess. "Rafi is no ordinary human," she said softly. "He carries strength we do not yet understand. Perhaps it is time to reconsider how we treat him." Rafi remained silent, knowing the queen's words were a sign of respect, though not yet freedom. He had faced the enemy and emerged victorious, not through weapons alone, but through courage, strategy, and determination. He had shown the Syrians why humans were remarkable and why their spirit could never be underestimated. As night fell over the crystal towers, Rafi looked at the stars above. He thought of his home, of the battles yet to come, and of the future that awaited him. He understood that the true challenge was only beginning. The palace walls had witnessed his courage, but the world beyond would test him in ways he had never imagined. And still his heart remained unbroken. He had survived the battlefield. He had faced the palace intrigue. And now, he had proven that humanity's greatest power was not weapons, nor blood, but the courage and spirit to act rightly, even when the odds were against them. The Syrian palace had seen the human strength, and the story of Rafi's courage had become a beacon for all who believed in the power of determination and hope. The war outside may continue, but within the walls of the palace, a human had shown the Syrians that courage, intelligence, and heart could change the outcome of even the fiercest battles. The city was calm after the battle, but the palace still hummed with quiet tension. Rafi had returned to his chamber, still bound, but the respect of the queen and her soldiers was clear. Princess Nira stayed near him, helping him with small wounds from the battle and sharing quiet conversation. Despite the chains, Rafi felt a sense of accomplishment. He had shown what humans could do, not only with courage but with strategy, heart, and determination. Queen Arilla summoned him to the throne room. He entered slowly, aware of every movement, every guard's gaze. The queen stood tall, her expression unreadable. The princess walked beside her, her eyes reflecting worry and hope. "Rafi," the queen began, "you have saved my daughter, my city, and my people. You have shown courage beyond measure, yet you are still my prisoner. I must decide your fate carefully." Rafi bowed his head, his voice calm. "I do not seek freedom. I only wish to live according to what is right." The queen's eyes studied him as if weighing every word. "Your actions have proven one truth. Humans are not merely warriors. They possess strength of heart and mind that even the greatest of our people cannot match. But your presence here still carries danger. Many will envy you, and some will seek to exploit your blood." Princess Nira stepped forward. "Mother, he has already given more than anyone could. He risked his life for me. We cannot hold him captive any longer." The queen looked at her daughter, then back at Rafi. "I see the truth in your words. You have acted with courage, wisdom, and selflessness. You have changed the hearts of my people, and you have reminded us of a value often forgotten in war: honor." Rafi's eyes met the queen's. "Thank you. I have acted only as humans should, with respect for life and for those in need." The queen nodded slowly. "Very well. I release you. You will leave this palace, but know that your actions here will always be remembered. You have shown why humanity is strong, not because of weapons nor blood, but because of heart, courage, and spirit. The guards moved quickly to remove his chains. Raffi flexed his wrists, feeling freedom in the small movements. He looked at Princess Nira, who smiled warmly. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have taught me more than words can say." Raffi bowed to the queen. "Your people are strong. They will continue to grow, guided by their courage. I am honored to have played a small part." The queen's face softened. "Go with honor, human. Know that you have left a mark here that will never fade." Outside the palace, Raffi felt the wind on his face. The city below was alive, rebuilt after the battle, its people safe. He had survived not only the enemy's attack, but also the intrigue within the palace. He had proven the strength of human courage and the power of heart. Princess Nira ran to the gates with him, her eyes bright. "I hope our paths cross again," she said. Raffi smiled. "As do I. Remember, courage is not measured by battles won, but by the heart to do what is right." He turned to leave, but paused, looking back at the palace. The queen watched from her high tower, her expression one of respect and understanding. Raffi knew that the story of the human who saved the princess with his own blood would be told for generations. It would inspire, remind, and honor the power of courage and selflessness. As Raffi walked into the horizon, the stars above began to shine, reflecting on the crystal towers behind him. He carried no chains, no fear, only the knowledge that he had made a difference. Humanity's strength had been proven, not in conquest, but in courage, heart, and the unyielding will to act rightly. The story of Raffi, the human who saved the princess and faced the queen's judgment, had reached its conclusion. Yet his actions would echo through time, reminding all who heard it that true power comes from spirit, honor, and the courage to choose life over fear. The horizon opened before him, full of new challenges, new worlds, and new battles, and Raffi walked forward, free, proud, and unbroken. The palace behind him glimmered in the sunlight, a testament to what courage and heart could achieve. Humanity had left its mark, and Raffi's story would live as a beacon for all who believed in honor, bravery, and the strength of the human spirit.